Okay, well, just here we are. We're just a day before spring, and we're dealing with frost.
Yes, hard to believe. Let's get over to meteorologist Nicondra Norwood to get another look at your Weather Authority forecast.
Well, you know, we've told you, we don't promise you that we're not going to get cold again. We've had freezes as late as April around here, so that can happen, and we're expecting it to happen tonight. Here is the view freeze warning all across parts of the south, and we're right on the edge here. Northern Tangipahoa, Washington Parish, and Pearl River County now included in that area, expected to get at least right down to that 32-degree freezing mark. But if you're planting, if you got the garden going, I know you're saying, well, wait, frost can be an issue, and that's what we're also watching for. There's the likelihood that we could see the frost coming all the way through parts of the river parishes. So definitely something you want to pay attention to. We saw Maddie Kurth earlier had the great advice with our horticulturalists talking about, you know, what you need to cover up, what you can probably let go for itself, and, you know, how having that moisture around is pretty helpful. But we are expecting those chilly conditions all the way down across much of the area. Here's the forecast, lows for tonight, right around that 32-degree mark as you're along that Mississippi border, and then some lower 30s. So these are the areas, even into the Mississippi Gulf Coast, but you'd really be watching for us to see some of that icing of frost across some of the plant matter. Now, getting farther to the south, if you're in the city, if you've got the influence of the lake, which will have the north wind continuing across the lake through most of the night, you shouldn't really have any issues. You're right down along the coast, you likely won't have any issues. But, you know, the river parishes, you got that northern flow, but you don't really have the water sink to really help things out. That heat sink's not there to keep things warmed up. So we could see some of these areas getting, you know, just close enough, especially away from those metro areas, the towns in there, where you could deal with some of the frost as well. So all things to be on the watch for. In those areas, you want to take care of your plants, as well as, of course, keeping up with the pets and people. You know, you haven't used your heater maybe for a while. You know, make sure everything's still working good before we get into the night where you might want to turn it on. South of the lake, people and pets as well. Those are things you want to check on. Now, right now, it's still really windy out, which could be a good thing the longer we keep the wind around. And gosh, look at it, splashing the waves against the seawall here. That keeps the air stirred up, and it makes it a little bit more difficult for us to cool down at night. Now, currently, we have 15 to 20 mile per hour winds across much of the area. We have had gusts through the day up around 30 miles per hour at times. So we've had some stronger wind gusts in here as that front came on through. We also still have some clouds around. Look at our visible satellite right now. They've been hugging the coast for several hours here. It's still just a little bit of a whisper of that westerly flow moving across the area. Anywhere that does not see the clouds completely clear out, anywhere that keeps the wind going, it's going to be a lot harder for it to get down to those freezing temperatures. So that could help out, just particularly as you head a little bit farther south here. We stay in the edge of those clouds now. It looks like some action back here to the west. It's going to see things blowing off the top. If that means more cloud cover for us, not quite as cold through the overnight. So that could be a plus for us as you go through the next several hours. But one thing that this northerly breeze has been doing is pushing in the dry dew points, and they're here. You look at the dew point at New Orleans is 34 now, 33 in Baton Rouge. So that dry air, that gives us the room for us to see temperatures really cooling down, even though it's pretty warm this afternoon now. That 69 with the sunshine, it feels good out there. 67 in Hammond, 68 at Belle Chase. But as soon as we lose that heat from the sun, that's where things are going to start to fall. The other thing that we're going to be looking at is a better chance for rain here. Thursday, Friday. So that's coming up the end of the week. We'll bring rain back into the forecast. How's that going to play out? Well, right now, we still got a dip across the middle of the country. That's helping to push more moisture along and down to the south and east right now. This dip, getting the dry air in. This spin, do you remember this? If you've been tracking the weather the last several days, remember we had that low sitting over the four corners, and it just hasn't gone anywhere. Nothing to push it along, which is one of the reasons it took so long for us to get our cold front through. Well, it is finally going to start moving. We'll finally start seeing that make its way to the east. So the colder morning tomorrow morning into the middle of the week, we'll have some of that cooler air sticking around. And then here comes our low, finally going to make its way in, and that's our chance for rain moving in for Thursday. So get ready for another round of shower activity possible in the extended forecast. This is what we're looking at here. Yes, technically the first day of astronomical spring tomorrow, but it is going to be the chilliest day of the week. And then we start to see things warming up next weekend. We're going into Holy Week, Palm Sunday. Might not be so bad. That could be, you know, a little bit warmer, a little bit more sunshine. The rain in the middle of the week.
Right.
Okay.
And the weekend turns out okay.
We're trying to work it out.
By the way, we're on the same wavelength here with the sweater dress.
Yeah,
I
yes.
also thought maybe I could squeeze one in one more day.
Look, I'm going to be at it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
As many more times as we can get it in.
Last time of the year, right? Or the
So
season, I
true.
should say. Thanks,
Thank you.
Nicondra. Well, for years, the Saints have been looking for a pass